My name is Dragan Spiridonov, and currently I'm a director for quality assurance and testing and one American-Serbian startup called Alchemy. It is about finding a proper place for tester in different contexts. So I had a chance to work in two different types of companies and on a lot of projects, so my context had changed a lot, and I would like to share my experience and maybe to help some testers that didn't have a chance to switch their context that much. So it's my time. Hi all, and welcome to today's second presentation during TestCon. You have all chosen this track, so I'm kind of hope that you will like it at the end. The full title of this presentation is Context-Driven Agile Tester from Outsourcing to Startup World. And I would like to start with a question. Any ideas about what the context-driven Agile tester is? And maybe how to become one? So you take one Agile tester and put him in two different types of companies and expose him to different types of projects, different methodologies. Not the waterfall. So I didn't do any waterfall projects, but I did Scrum, I did Kanban, I did lean startup kind of way. So you will see there is a lot of context changes happened while I was working, especially in the outsourcing company. I have worked on 10 or more projects. Did it stop? You can hear me? Okay. Okay, so key takeaways for today will be, I will show you that being an Agile tester really means that you can adapt to any context that is put on you. And maybe you will find some, let's say, tricks you can apply when you are working on different types of projects. Let me just give a quick inquiry. Who is working as a tester right now? Ooh, a lot of you. Anybody working in an outsourcing company? So somebody is, you're writing code or testing for somebody else? Okay, just a few of you. Anybody working in a startup company? No. Okay, so it can be interesting to hear this kind of experiences that I had. Couple words about me. As you already heard, my name is Dragan Spiridonov, and I'm working 19 years in IT, and only the last 4 years in software testing. Before that, I was a system and network administrator. I was a computer science teacher. I was a freelance developer. So you can say that I did a lot of things related to the IT, and that background helped me when I started working as a software tester, because when I found out about software testing and started to work as a software tester, everything that I learned before just clicked into one place, and it was really useful. I'm in charge of quality assurance and testing department in our startup currently. It's an American-Serbian startup called Alchemy. So basically the business is in America, development is in Serbia. And I'm also an organizer for events for our local testing community in Serbia. So organizing open space, link office, lectures and everything. And you can see my friends call me Professor. So my nickname also on Twitter, you can find me as a Professor Dragan, and my team still calls me, everybody calls me Profa, like short from professor. But yeah, and that's why I like to share my experience and knowledge and transfer some of those, I hope, to you today. Okay, let's start with giving some context. What will mostly define your context when you are working in some company is the company culture. So how they are looking at the ways that, sorry, brain freeze. Both companies that I had a chance to work are learning companies, and they really put their, let's say, they're trying to deliver quality products, and in order to do that, they establish certain cultural patterns. I wanted to get those. So we have an outsourcing company that is more than 20 years in business. They have various clients, projects from small to big ones, mostly really tough projects for some medical companies, petroleum and fire departments, and there were some really challenging projects there. And there is a learning culture there, experience sharing. When people go to the conferences, when they go back to the company, they will share their experience, what they have learned, what they have heard there, and maybe try some of those new things. And that company, what is special about that company, that it had its own R&D department in the last 5 years. And from that R&D department originated the current startup that I'm working at. And working in a startup is a challenge of its own. I would like to continue giving you context through 3 stories. One is story about Scrum, the second story will be about Kanban, and the third story will be about lean startup kind of way. So let's start with the context number 1. How you implement Scrum in outsourcing. So when I got into that company was already had the experienced teams, and I was lucky to, on my first project, to get really technically difficult, high risk and high, I don't know, everything project. And now somebody can ask, how is that luck? Because I was part of a really experienced team that could help me in making a quality a habit. And in this way, and only with this client, I can say that Scrum has succeeded. As I have heard many times on many of conferences that Scrum mostly doesn't succeed, or doesn't succeed if it's followed by the book. So if you take all the limitations that Scrum will impose on you, you will probably end up with problems in your project, especially if management is trying to impose those limits. But in this case, Scrum has succeeded, and we used it by the book. We had a great team from the client side, really experienced team there, experienced team here, and mostly the process that we used was start with the kickoff meetings. We had 2 weeks iterations, backlog grooming, I think Wednesday in the second week. Then we had a sprint planning on the Friday for the next 2 weeks. So we did technical meetings, user stories were very well defined with the acceptance criteria. So, and our burn down chart was really good. But we made some modifications, so we can say that we used Scrum by the book, but we added some more things. We introduced Sprint Zero. I don't know, anybody working in Scrum currently? Do you use sometimes Sprint Zero? Do you have a Sprint Zero? Just one hand over there, 2. So Sprint Zero is a really good practice, and it can last from 1 to 2 weeks. It depends on how team is experienced and if the team members know each other. If they don't know each other, it's a good chance to meet other team members, to meet with the team that you will work, the, let's say, client team. In this case, the client team was consisted from the project manager, the the product owner, software architect, test manager. So they were preparing, then everything was prepared for us. And during that sprint zero, we will have a chance to go through all the stories and all that big story, what is planning for that project. And we introduced some more modifications because the tool that we were using for monitoring, let's say, our team's progress, because the client, when he's paying, he's really interesting to see your punchlines. So how many hours did you spend on this type of thing, this type of thing? So how many development hours have gone to the story? How many hours have you spent in preparing your testing environment, in collecting your test data, in testing the application? So we had to make some adjustments to our project management tool in order to capture all the data needed for the customer. We also introduced some tags so we can easily go and, let's say, query a database and export some data directly from the database, because the project management tool didn't have that kind of reports that we needed for the client. So we tweaked the process to fit our needs. What was the givens for success? Let's say that client was really mature and very well trained into Scrum process, and they understood that if that you don't need to be really strict about the policies, but use the best things that Scrum offers, like daily meetings, like demos, to provide the client with working software. So when you finish the 2-week sprint, on Friday you will give a demo of what have you done in the previous 2 weeks, and that demo will be the proof of quality that your team have delivered. So, but where is the Agile tester in that story? So, what can an Agile tester do in a Scrum? If you're just a tester, not an Agile tester, you will most of your time do what? Functional testing. So maybe, yeah, you will test the requirements. You need to read the requirements. You need to test the acceptance criteria to see if there are not some ambiguities there. But if you're an Agile tester, you will try to go beyond the defined tasks. So the client will have something that is expected from you to be done, but you will probably try, as I have tried, I don't know for you, I have tried to make my process optimized. What was, because I was doing several projects for the same clients, the first painful thing was setting up test environments. So it mostly took up 15 to half an hour to set up all the configurations and everything needed to test some story. And at the end of test session, because I was doing like session-based testing, collecting evidence, recording everything, then at the end of the session, I needed to collect all the logs, collect all the configuration files used and everything. So if somebody wants to retest that story, he can do it exactly as it needs to be done. Or if there is some bug needs to be reproduced, it can be easily reproduced with the configuration provided. So about an hour a day was, I don't want to say lost, but spent into setting up and collecting test data. And that was first painful point for me, that I decided with the team that we can, let's say, write some script that can set up test data for us and also collect the test results at the end. So that was the first thing you can do when you're having some painful things to do multiple times, same type of things. On first project, we were writing detailed test cases. So there was that, I think Spira was called the tool for capturing the test acceptance tests with their acceptance criteria. So you will need to write the detailed test cases. Click this, click there. You know what I'm talking. So you will have the You will have the setting of environment, and so the preconditions, the actions, and the expected results for each of the test cases. And after a while of writing those detailed test cases, because most of the time in the first week when the development starts, you will need to prepare for how you will test those stories. And I noticed that after a while, after a couple of months, that I think nobody reads these stories. And I wanted to experiment with that. And I added in several of those acceptance criteria, if somebody finds this, owes me a beer. And what happened? Nobody said, okay, I need to take you to a beer. And that was a really proof for me that nobody is reading those things. So I suggested to the test manager from the client side, okay, can we try something else? Can we try introducing, let's say, shorter, just introduce session charters and introduce mind maps into our process into order to start the communication better with the team. Because if you are not reading this, you will not know how did I test the story. But if I show you the mind map and walk you through and give you painful points that I found during testing, it can be much more useful. Also, instead of template reports on several pages, we just got to a few well-formed sentences and describing what have been done and to what extent have been done. And again, we are back to sprint demos because they are proof that you have done the job required for your team during the sprint. At the first couple of projects, the demos were run by the most experienced team member. It was a team lead or a test lead or technical lead as the projects change. And at one point in time, I was the most experienced person in the team, so I started giving demos. And it was a win-win situation for the team, because the team leader, he kind of didn't want to do that. And you want to do demos? Okay, I don't have problems, because I will prepare all the test data. I will even do some things that scared my team, because I will try to test something that we didn't test maybe during the testing period at the end of the sprint, but to do it directly in demo. And during demo also was asked by we were asking product owner to give us some new testing ideas. It was a win-win situation for a while, but it cannot last longer. So I went to a vacation, and the guys needed to prepare for the sprint demo. And after the sprint demo, the product manager from the client side said that the quality was impacted, and it was not good. So my team was starting to do, how we internally joke about that, TDD, but in another company, like tester-driven development. So they were really expecting that the quality will be only testers' responsibility, not the whole team. And it's not an agile approach, and it's not a proper way to do it. So after that, we did a retrospective, and we concluded that we will do rotations, so regular rotation. Each week, another team member will present to the client what have we done during the previous sprint. So that's my story about Agile tester in Scrum. But sometimes the Scrum won't work. You will have the clients that are not prepared for the limitations that are imposed by the Scrum process. Some of those limitations are daily meetings. We had one client, and he really needed help immediately because his lead developer left his company, and he needed to continue working on developing version 2 of his product. There was still version 1 and 1.1 running in production. There were clients needed to be taken care of. There were some bug fixes, there were some new feature requests for the old versions, so there were a lot of things happening with that client, and he needed immediate help. So he came to our company looking for help. We provided a team for him, and as he hadn't no preferences about the process we should use, we started with Scrum, because we were doing Scrum on most of the projects in our company. So why don't start with Scrum? 2 days we had daily meetings, so kickoff meeting, okay, 2 days meetings, daily meetings, okay. 3rd day, we were waiting for him on Skype. There was no client. 2nd day, no client. 3rd day, no client. So something wasn't working. Sending emails to him, he responds sometimes. It's not good. So we needed to find a way and to do some intelligent effort into finding proper solutions. So there were problems, not just the fixed schedule, and as he didn't see any value in daily meetings, so there was a problem that client wanted a way of easy tracking progress of work. Okay, we had that also in Scrum, so we had a tool we can use there to show him how we are progressing through sprints. But he was not interested in sprints. He was interested, okay, I like to change the priority of task. When my clients call me, I need to change the priority or add a new feature or add a new bug fix or anything. I want to do it, and I want to do it in my own time, because from time to time he has to go to his client sites, and in those special occasions he wouldn't be available for us. What was also a problem that client was not really good with English, and he wasn't feeling really confident into writing proper user stories with acceptance criteria, because he started doing that, but our team then was really struggling to understand what the client wanted us to do. And we then decided, the whole team, so again, I was lucky that I had a really experienced team members, and they have tried it on one project before this one. So the team leader, she suggested that we should maybe try using some other process tool. Why don't we try with Kanban? Because Kanban is a visualization tool. So we will have Kanban is what on Japanese it's a card. It's like a visual card representing what you need to do. Okay, let's try with Kanban. It will fix these 3 issues that we have with client, but we will see later on how we can start with helping client in writing better user stories. So in order to do this, we needed to increase the communication with the client. So we went to his site and made an arrangement and explained him how it will go and showed him the tool that we chosen. It was internet tool, I think it's called Kanbanize. So there's an internet-based Kanban board that you can use and easily modify to your needs. So we created, I don't know, we had 3 streamlines because we were needed to work on version 1 bugs, version 2 bugs, version 2 new features. There was 3 columns in requested area with to do ready for testing and ready for development, and 2 columns in progress area, like in progress and in testing. And we introduced, because client was really eager to put the pile of tasks on us, so we provided him with the requested area to do without the limitation. So you can enter all of the user stories that want to be done there. There will be no limitation there, but we introduced limitations in progress area. So as the team was contained 3 people, the limit was to 3. So there couldn't be more than 3 stories at the moment working on in progress. No matter if it's a new feature story for development or the development task or the testing task. We always have a maximum of 3. And it worked perfectly in this case. As as the client was struggling with writing user stories, at that time I was introduced to BDD or ATDD or specification by example, or however you want to call it, depends on who you are talking to. So is it a behavior-driven development or acceptance test-driven development or a specification by example? So there are different types, but it's basically writing the user stories in Gherkin style, given when then notation. So precondition in given, when some action happened, then some expected result will be present. And what was really good about this was that we can use these stories written in this type to automate checks from those examples. And we kind of succeeded into hitting two flies with one. So as we were working constantly on new features, there was a lot of regression testing needed to be done. So the regression tests were solved with the Selenium tests. And all in all, this project shown that when you discover that there is some problem with the process that you are using currently, you can easily tweak it and change it. So the processes are there to be changed by people, because they are created by people to introduce some limits. Each of the, let's say, process tools, because Scrum and Kanban are basically process tools or methodologies, or however you want to call them, will or could be tweaked to your needs. And those limitations doesn't have to be always strictly by the book implemented. Okay, the third context is the lean startup. This is something completely different. So if you never had the chance to work in a startup, it can be really, really challenging. We tried to do development of our new product. So this startup originated from the outsourcing company, so the team members have already been really experienced ones. They started solving their problems, and that was our original product, because they were working on multiple enterprise-based projects, and they noticed that on each of these projects you will have to do a lot of same things. And at that point, the idea of creating a new code generator, because there are a lot of code generators on the market, but not good enough. My team started building a new code generator, and we will be building it by the lean principles. So we had an idea, we build one version of the product, then we measure what we have achieved with that, and then collect the data, again do the retrospective, learn from the data, and then continue with building the product. So how it looked like. Do you know these guys? Have you watched Silicon Valley series? Somebody? Yeah, this is not us. This is us originally. So this is the team of 9 people. Originally, starting the story, the company was called Dry Tools, and we have created a tool named Sifu, like master, master for code, exactly. And our master for code, somebody was calling it master for code, somebody was calling it developer on steroids, because it can really start you up. We have tried to sell this tool to the developers, and selling some tools to developers can be really hard. And after a year, so you do your metrics, we didn't sell enough licenses that we wanted, so we did like lean way. Let's try to find another thing that we can do and use our tool to be in advantage in front of other teams. So we found a company in America, merged with it, and now we are American-Serbian-based startup, but we are creating a solution now for specialty chemical industry using our tool. Using our tool, we have managed to, in 4 months, create a completely working MVP SaaS solution that was good enough that client will buy it. So that is really, really powerful tool. But what does it mean to be an agile tester in a lean startup? If you're thinking maybe of transferring to the startup company, think again. It's really challenging. It's not easy. It will drive your drive you to the limits of breaking. Because somebody say, okay, it's much easier to work in a startup than in outsourcing company. In outsourcing company, you have strict policies. You need to write down your time. You need to report to your management. You need to report to the clients. You need to take care a lot of those people influenced, interested in the quality of the product that you're creating. In lean startup, you don't have to report to anybody. You can go on holiday whenever you want. Really? You are working 24/7, 365 days. Okay, not really 24/7, but when you are in production, your monitoring tools are there to do some of the job for you, because most of the time during the day I'm watching logs and seeing what's happening on our production servers. We have monitors that will monitor production servers. If something is happening, if there is some error, you will need to react immediately, and that is something that Roy mentioned there. So, as a tester involved in a startup company, I needed to do things that I never think that I've been doing. In the first company, we were building code generator, so somebody needed to create a documentation for that code generator. And I personally don't like writing. I like talking to people, but I accepted the challenge. Okay, let me try do this. And after a while, I really earned the respect of the team, because when they tried to rewrite some parts of the documentation and to give some their contribution to the documentation, it was really hard to them. They said it was the hardest thing they have to do. So the development was really easy part to be doing. When we were releasing this to the clients, somebody needed to create our CI, so our pipeline needed to be created. Somebody needed to put the servers up and running, to create the environments. So there is a lot of things that if you have some special knowledge, or maybe, let's say, you are not afraid of new challenges and you can step out of your comfort zone, then you can really level up yourself with those kind of tasks. And guys, now when they are talking, they say, people are talking about full stack developers. They don't know what the Dragan is doing for us. So, but I'm not, I had a separate presentation for, let's say, full stack tester. And is there something that can be called like that? If in any context, so I saw that I'm close to the end with less than 5 minutes. So what can Agile tester do in any of context? You can, if you don't know, if you're not technical savvy, you can find a person that will help you learn how to set up your test environment. And if you can set up your test environment, you can share with your team. And it will really be valuable to the team. Learn how to use the source control. I had a lot of interesting conversations with the developers just by looking to the code commits. Some bugs I have found just by looking code commits, no need to run the code in order to find bugs. Pair with developers, talk with them. What I'm trying in the last couple of months is not just to pair, but to mob. So we are trying to do some mob testing and mob development. That is some new stuff that you can hear from Maret and Lovelin Falco and all those people, Woody Zuil, that are doing mob programming and mob testing. I won't talk about this. You can communicate your phasing using assertive language, and be kind, be polite, smile. and it really helps. I know that developers love to come to my desk. Okay, I always have some pot of candies over there. Maybe they are coming for the candies or just coming to talk with me. I don't know. But when they come to candies, they will talk also to me. So it's a good starting point for a conversation. And if you smile to them, then they will come more often, believe me. And just to keep up with all the context changes that can be opposed from you, this is something that I'm borrowing from my teacher background, is these 4 C's of are called 21st century superpowers. So our kids should be in schools, learn these things, and we as a testers, and I don't know if you have learned those things in schools, as nobody have learned those. I didn't learn those things in school. I needed to learn them while I was working. So communication, sharing thoughts, questions, ideas, solutions, collaboration, like working together to reach a goal, putting talent, expertise, and smarts to work, critical thinking, looking for problems in a new way, and linking learning across subjects and disciplines, or in this case, development, testing, operations, connecting all those things together into providing a quality product. And of course, the creativity to try new approaches while you're doing things done. That's it. I would like to finish. And any questions?